All right, this is Math 209, Week 3, Section 7.2. We're going to be multiplying expressions. What's weird is even though the title is called Multiply, we're really, in this case, this problem in particular, we're just going to be simplifying. So basically, I want you to think of like a normal old well, let's start by writing down the expression. So it's z plus 13 over z plus 13. Now, let's go over here and let's think about like, fourth grade fractions, right? 5 over 5, well, that's equal to 1. Anytime the numerator and the denominator are the same number, that means, 5 out of 5, that means 1 whole. Or if you had like -8 over -8, well, that's equal to 1 whole. Anytime the top number and the bottom number are the same, that's a fraction equal to 1 whole. So if you wanted to do like m over m, well, that's equal to 1. Or you could do like 3.8 over 3.8. That's equal to 1. All right, so that's the whole idea, right? So we're going to move over here and we're going to look, and we have, sure enough, we have z plus 13 over z plus 13. So I want you to think of that as a number on top of that as a number. That's equal to 1. So there's our answer, 1. All right, so here we're supposed to simplify this fraction. So when you look at that fraction, basically, I want you to think of that fraction as a numerator over a denominator, and both the numerator and the denominator have been factored. For example, we can think of this as like, let's say it's like 18 over 24. Okay, so what do I mean by that? What factored? That means like 18 has been broken apart to be like 2 times 3 times 3. Because if you think about it, 3 times 3 is 9, times 2 is 18, and so this has been factored. And you're writing 18 in expanded form. It's called prime factorization. In the same way, it's 24. Well, 24 is 4 times 6, but each of those can be broken up to be 2 times 2 times 2 times 3, because there's our 4 times 6, and so that's all factored, right? And so then, if you think about it, well, 2 over 2, that equals 1 whole. And over here, 3 over 3, that equals 1 whole. So that simplifies, so we really get basically 1 times 3 over 2 times 2 times 1. That's basically what we get. And so when you're multiplying by 1, nothing happens, right? It doesn't change the value. So really, the answer is just 3 over 4. All right, so we look for common factors in the numerator and the denominator, and we kind of like cancel them out because they equal 1. And when you're multiplying 1, that doesn't change the value at all. And so that's basically what's going on. So when we look at this fraction right here, what's going on? Well, we see that we have x over x, so that's equal to 1 whole. We have x plus 5 over x plus 5, that's equal to 1 whole. All right. And then we have x plus 1 over x minus 1. They're not the same. And you're not allowed to just cross off the x or cross off the 1, because this is a number in its entirety. So you can't cross off. It'd be kind of like saying, well, here's a 7, but if I ignore this piece, it kind of looks like a 1. So you're not allowed to like take this number and like arbitrarily break it in half. Or like, hey, what's half of 8? Well, half of 8 is 3. Ha, 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 ha. You're not allowed to do that. So, and that's basically why you're not allowed to just cross off these x's, because this is a number, x plus 1, and this is a number, x minus 1. And so our simplified version of this fraction really becomes 1 times, and then it's x plus 1 over x minus 1 times 1. So this one is right here, this one is right here. And so really, the answer is just x plus 1 over x minus 1. And from now on, I think I'm just going to go straight to this step. I'm going to ignore this step right here, because it's not really necessary. All right, so here it says multiply and simplify to the lowest terms. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to see if we can, well, first let's copy down the problem. There's the problem. And so what we're going to do is first we're going to see if anything cancels. And this is an 8, and this is an x plus 1, and down here we have x and x. Nothing cancel. We don't have any factors in the top that match the factors in the bottom. So that means we are ready to just multiply. And you remember from back in the day, multiplying fractions is you just multiply straight across. So x times x, the denominator is really easy. It's x squared, right? But what they want us to do is they want us to leave your answer in factored form. So that means they don't want us to actually multiply x times x and write x squared. They really want us to just leave it as 8 times x plus 1 over x times x. Now, if they don't like this answer, they might, as MathLab, might prefer the answer to be like this, x squared. I'm not entirely sure, to be honest, which one of these my MathLab wants, but they're both correct. And because the directions say leave in factored form, I'm inclined to think it's this one. All right, for this question, the same directions. It says multiply and simplify to that lowest terms. Now the key is they do want us to leave our answer in factored form. All right, so what does all that mean? All right, so here's our problem. We've got this fraction being multiplied by this fraction. And the idea is, first thing we do is we can think of this as like normal fractions, and we see that we've got a z plus 5 in the numerator and a z plus 5 in the denominator. So those guys equal one whole. They kind of like cancel out, but really they equal one whole. And one whole doesn't change the value of our final answer, so we can like cancel them out. And then in this case, these are not like terms. You're not allowed to cross off the z's, because this is not a z, this is a z plus 2. And this is not a z, this is a z minus 3. So they are not like terms. So our simplified answer is z plus 2 over z minus 3. And that is your answer. So here it says multiply and simplify to lowest terms. Now I'm going to kind of zoom in, and you'll notice right here, we know that the rule for multiplying fractions is to just go straight across, and multiply. But before we multiply, let's see if anything can cross cancel or simplify. And we see that we've got an 7x plus 5 in the numerator and a 7x plus 5 in the denominator. Those guys cancel out. So that equals one whole. So they kind of like cancel out. And then you can see going in this direction, 3x plus 5 and 3x plus 5, those cancel out, basically leaving 1. And so what do we end up with? Well, we end up with 1 over 1 times 1 over 1. And that's basically all saying, oh, everything is 1, so that the answer is 1. All right, so here it says to multiply and simplify. So you've got these two fractions, and we're supposed to be multiplying. But before we multiply, what we're going to do is we're going to simplify those fractions first, or factor out those fractions first, all right? So each of the expressions. So first thing we do is we're going to look at this y squared minus 49. So y squared minus 49. We're going to go over here on scratch paper, and we're going to say, well, y squared minus 49. How do we factor that? Well, that's the box. Y squared goes here, minus 49 goes there. And we know that y and y go there. We know 7 and 7 go here. And because we have a binomial, we have no internal terms. That means these two internal terms have to cancel each other out. So that means 7y and 7y. That means one of them has to be a negative 7y, and the other has to be a positive 7y, and that's how we cancel out our terms. And so this really is y plus 7 times y minus 7, all right? So this expression factors to y plus 7 times y minus 7. So I'm going to go over here, and I'm going to replace this with y plus 7 times y minus 7. And this guy down here, 2y plus 16, I can factor out a 2 as our common factor, and we end up with y plus 8. All right, times. Now I'm going to focus on this. Y plus 8 over y minus 7. Nothing simplifies. Nothing can be factored. So I'm just going to copy it over again. And so now you should be able to see, oh, wait a second. We have a common factor right here. Y plus 8 and y plus 8. So that cancels out. And then you can see that we have a y minus 7 and a y minus 7. So those cancel out. So what are we left with? Well, right here, we're left with y plus 7 times 1 over 2 times 1. All right, that's this fraction. And then we have a big old fat times, and then it's 1 over 1. So what's our final answer in nice simplified terms? It's really just y plus 7 over 2. And that is our answer. And the last problem for this video, we have this ugly multiplication problem. We've got this fraction here being multiplied by this fraction. And we know that in order to multiply, you just go straight across, right? But a shortcut is to first simplify and factor out anything and cross-cancel anything to make your numbers smaller. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with, there is our problem right here. But we know that, or at least we suspect, that this expression and this expression can be factored using that box. So we got 4x squared minus x minus 5. So I'm going to go over here. We've got 4x squared minus x minus 5. And so we're going to do our box. And we know that 4x squared goes here and negative 5 goes here. We're guessing it's going to be 2x and 2x, but we don't really know. And then let's see. It's actually going to be, okay, you know what? I see already that it's going to be 4x and x. All right. And when I do that, if this is going to be a 4x, and so what is going to be over here if I need a 5? I'm going to put a 1 here. That's how I'm going to get the 5, and then I'm going to put a 5 here, and I'm ignoring the sign right now. I'm just kind of filling in our internal values now. So we've got 4x here, we've got 5x here. We know we need a negative 1, because that's what that is. So that means this 5x has to be negative, so that's a negative 5. That means this has to be a positive 4x, which makes that a positive 1. And so now we see that our internal terms equal that negative 1x, and that's what we wanted. So we see that this simplifies, or factors, I mean, to 4x minus 5 times x plus 1. All right, so we're going to take that guy, and we're going to copy it, and we're going to put him, so this guy is equal to this right here, all right, over, all right, now I need to move some stuff here. So let's move this down, let's move this down, and let's move this down. There we go. All right. So now what we need to do is we need to factor 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. All right, so we're going to go over here, and we're going to factor 2x squared, what the heck was it? Minus 5x minus 3. Minus 5x minus 3. So once again, we're going to do the box. And we know that 2x squared goes here. We've got negative 3 there. And we know that we need to have a 2x and an x. Now I'm going to put, let's see, if I put 3 here, I think if I put the 3 here and the 1 here, that's going to give me a 3, because 3 times 1 is 3, and I'm ignoring the sign right now. So then, when I find our internal values, or variables, internal terms, that's it, we get 3x, and we get 2x. And remember, we're keeping in mind that we don't need to worry about the signs at this point. But I got a problem here. Because the way to make negative 5x is these would both have to be negatives, which makes this a negative 1 and negative 3. But negative 3 times negative 1 gives us positive 3. So that means I screwed up. That means those are not correct. So let's, whoa, reverse that. Okay, so that tells me I need to, oh, gee whiz, what did I just do here? So minus 5x minus 3. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to try again. So we're going to try again. So 2x squared negative 3. And I'm going to put, let's put 2x here, and let's put x there. So that's how we get our 2x squared. And let's reverse it. So I think originally I had a 3 down here. Let's put the 3 over here instead. So let's put the 3 here and the 1 here. And so now when I do my internal terms, I get 6x and I get 1x. Ah, now it's going to work. Rockin'. So how do I need to get these internal terms to equal negative 5x. So that's going to make it negative 6x and a positive 1x. So that's going to make it a negative 3, and that's going to make this a positive 1. And sure enough, positive 1 times negative 3 is the negative 3 that we are looking for. So this factors over here to, let's see, 2x plus 1 times x minus 3. All right, so there we go. And so now what I'm going to do is when I'm going to scroll over here, and I need to replace, there we go, I need to replace this with this because we factored it. All right, and now, so I've just taken this fraction and I've factored the numerator and the denominator. Now I'm just going to bring this guy over. So we've got times 2x plus 1 over 4x minus 5. All right. So now looking at that right here, I see some common factors. I see 4x minus 5 over 4x minus 5. So that factors, and those cancel or simplify. Let's see, do I see anything else? Yeah, I see 2x plus 1 and a 2x plus 1. So those cancel. So that makes this entire fraction right here 1 whole. So I'm just going to draw a big old fat 1 whole. So that doesn't change the value at all, basically meaning we could ignore it. And over here, again, I see that this piece right here is 1 whole. So that's not really going to change the value, so I can basically kind of ignore it. And then, so what do we end up with? We end up with x plus 1 over x minus 3. Because that's this part of the fraction that's left over. That was a lot of work. I mean, if you look at it, what do you have? You have to copy the problem. You have to do some factoring over here with your box method. And then we have to look for things that can simplify. That's a lot of work.